Hey, 360 Electricians. Hey. Brian House is in the house from Holt Enterprises. But
happy to be here, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I don't know what he's doing here. I mean, it's crazy, right?
I figured it out myself, actually.
No one's pinched me yet, but yes, he's in my studio. I got to come to your studio.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be in your guys' studio, and I was like throwing a number out there, and he's like, yeah, double that. I'm like, okay, so pretty good
we
for
have a really cool studio.
They do.
I have to say, this is pretty tight, Jeff.
Not too bad for an in-home studio, but speaking of that, and that's not we're actually not really going to talk about code. It's pretty amazing. But speaking about the studio,
I'm a little disappointed, but I'm pretty excited what we're going to talk about. So I'm not.
Very cool. But speaking of the new studio, I don't think anything's come out yet. This is all for 2026. Have I seen any? I haven't seen any videos from the new studio yet.
Yeah, the only video that was done in the new studio, the new backdrop and setup was electrical estimating. So that was the only thing we did was electrical estimating.
And is that out on?
That is out. That came out about 6 months ago, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
Just end of last year.
I saw that one. No, I'm just kidding. I need to go see that one. Of course, your books and Mike's books and all the things you do and you're in charge of are all over the place.
Okay, I don't see an electrical estimating book here. We have to get you one of those.
Okay, well, hold on, wait a minute.
Oh, we have it?
Nope, leadership
skills.
Business management.
No.
Okay, wait. What do you have to get me? Because I just heard something there. That
electrical estimating.
Okay,
understanding electrical estimating.
Yes, very cool. Well, I teach and preach that as well, but a totally different fashion.
Yeah.
And that is a book that I definitely want to take a look from.
It's a great book. It's a very practical approach from my experience as an electrical contractor. Mm-hmm. And what it really is I tried to bring in the experts in the different areas of your world as an electrical contractor that you have to interact with. So I have a general contractor as one of my panel members.
Nice.
I have a lighting rep. I have a supply house district manager. He's on there. I've got
that's very cool.
High-end electrical estimator.
Right.
I've got an inspector. I've got an engineer.
Wow.
Have an estimating software company that makes estimating software. Mm-hmm. The idea being, and actually we're going to kind of talk about this in a different way, but the idea being is you need to be very intentional about how you run your business.
Right.
And part of that is knowing how much money you're going to make in advance, and the only way to know that is to know how much money it's going to cost you to do work.
Sure.
And so that is electrical
Gotcha.
estimating.
And I want to clarify something too that maybe the audience doesn't know or people watching. Brian, before he was known as, the guy behind, I don't know, the guy behind Mike Hall, because,
the man behind the curtain.
The man behind the curtain too. Yeah. Mike gets to have all the fun. Yeah. Brian has to do all the...
I do some of the grinding.
Right, the grinding.
I do quite a bit of the grinding.
Yeah, Mike deserves it, I guess, right?
Hey, listen, there is no one on this planet that I respect more when it comes to the National Electrical Code than Mike Holt. So.
Absolutely. Life-changing 2 days for me, but that's not what we're talking about. All
right.
Okay, Brian, you are a very successful electrical contractor before you even got into Mike Holt. So I want to talk about that because I don't know if anybody really knows about it, but when you and I first met and we had our mall walk instead of mall talk or whatever we call it, we got our mall walk. If Brian ever invites you to Florida and he says, hey, let's go for a walk in the mall, it's going to come out two ways. Yeah. Either friggin' awesome or oh boy, you're in trouble. And luckily I came out good on the other side.
And it has a great coffee shop.
It does have a great coffee shop. I had a lot of fun. I could have spent 3 days there. Mike, talk to us about your past before you even got into Mike Holt. And of course, being the electrical contractor channel, you're speaking 90% of my audience either wants to be or they are.
Yeah, so let me summarize my whole career. I love to say I have made millions and millions of dollars, and I have lost millions and millions of dollars. And those of you that have been in business for a while, you understand that you're only a winner if you made more than you lost. That's how that works out.
Right.
And, I think to really just focus in on one thing, because we talked earlier and I was like, hey, if I was going to pick one thing to talk about, it really is something that's actually even a theme at Holt Enterprises. And probably because I've been just kind of learning from Mike for many years since I was 19. And that is that as a contractor, you need to do everything with intentionality. And let me just kind of explain to you a little bit what I mean by that. We have a tendency, guys, girls, it doesn't matter, as business owners. We get in the new phone thing. That the new phone comes out. It's one model newer than what we have. We don't even know if it's any better. We just buy it because it's new.
Right.
the new drill comes out and it's a little sexier than what we have. We just buy it because it's new. Not a real compelling reason for doing it. You know, whoever, if you're DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita, whatever, they come out with some new kind of cordless tool that you don't even need.
Right.
But you buy it
Right.
because it came out with it. And it's kind of chasing the next big thing. And as a contractor, unfortunately, one of the things, we have two things that we have in very limited supply: cash and labor. Those are two
Right.
things we have in very limited supply. And to be successful as a contractor, we have to manage our cash well, we have to manage our labor well. My observation, and this is from mentoring a lot of electricians, my own personal mistakes. Listen, I tell everybody I have made more mistakes, probably every mistake you can make in the electrical industry. I, at least once, maybe
Right.
more than once.
Right.
And my own personal observation has been this: that as a contractor, things are going well. You haven't mastered something, but you're getting pretty good.
Bored and comfortable?
Very comfortable.
Okay, yeah, it's happened to me. It
Maybe
happens all the
not
time.
even excellent yet. Pretty good,
Yeah.
but not excellent.
Right.
And then you see something, you're like, oh my gosh, that is so next level.
Right.
You don't know why it's next level. You're not even sure how exactly it's going to impact your business. Not what you're going to do with it. You're like, oh yeah, I have to have that.
Sure.
But you don't know how it's going to impact your business. You weren't intentional. You didn't go, okay, this tool is going to generate X revenue. The cost is this much. The impact to my bottom line is this. The impact to my cash flow is this. The impact to my labor is this.
You got to make payments. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, I would say this, and I do this almost on a daily basis, honestly, even with my Holt Enterprises now, and I did this for many years as a contractor. I look at a new technology. Let's take the latest rage, AI.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's AI,
Yeah.
AI. To be fair, it's amazing.
Right.
It is amazing. The problem is there's a flood of tools on the market. A flood.
Ton, absolutely.
You could
Marketing,
make a career
bidding. Yeah.
out of just trying to read the ads.
Right.
And so what do? You start with one thing, it's not quite what you want, so you buy another one, you buy another one, you buy. Next thing you know, you got 20 subscriptions. You're not making money with any of them.
Yeah.
The problem is you weren't intentional.
Right.
You didn't go, okay, I have a problem. This is my problem. I need a tool to solve this problem. The impact on my bottom line is going to be this. The amount of time it's going to free up is going to be this. And then you go find a solution to the problem.
Right.
It's just not natural for us. What do? We get the sexier, newer, bigger tool.
Sure. And not to interrupt you, but absolutely. And software is a great one, because I do have a software company that I happen to promote. We're not going to talk about that because it's not about that thing, but it's right. And when I talk about even the software, what people tend to do is just get like 5 of them and, you know, buy this, do this, and then it doesn't solve the problem.
No.
And for me also, it's something you were saying is, I think that if I buy this tool, that it's going to somehow make me better, when I really haven't been intentional, like you said.
So let's talk about
the newest
software.
phone. I think if I get the newest phone, it's going to make me more productive.
Let's talk about software.
Yeah.
So this is a thing that I run across all the time when I'm mentoring, especially business owners. You buy a piece of software. Software is built to operate a specific way.
Right.
To do a specific thing a specific way. What do? As a business owner, we take our way of doing things and try to force it into the software.
Yes.
Which means that all of the design and all of the function that was put in and forethought that was put into the software to save us time and money,
Right.
we circumvent completely by
Right.
trying to take whatever it is that we're comfortable with and put it into the software. What we didn't do is go, man, probably, I'm gonna guess, people smarter than me made the software.
Right.
It's a successful software for a lot of people.
Right.
So what I should probably do is buy the training package. Usually there's some kind of training package. Sometimes it's free, but
Yeah.
usually you can buy a training package. This is especially true with estimating software.
Sure.
And then
More
what do you
expensive
do?
software, too.
What do you do is you change how you work, and in the process you learn things.
Right.
And we talked about this on our estimating. We had a little section on software, and I was talking with Richard Jafarian, was one of the guys on the thing, and I was like, hey, talk to us about.
Because it sounds like he's Armenian.
Oh, yeah, he probably is actually.
IAN.
And he's like, Brian, the problem is people don't use the software the way it was designed.
Yeah.
And so then you don't have a predictable result.
You just tied that into basic electrical talk.
Yeah.
About the code. Mike would say dinosaur stuff.
Yep.
How we think because aluminum wire had this, you
Sure.
can't use it. You're hitting the nail on the head where we understand where we're...
A lot of myths.
Yeah, a lot of myths and a lot of things. And that's super important. I think sitting here, we even talked about another software earlier tonight that we both said it stinks.
Yeah.
But yet I'm wasting money on it because I didn't exactly. I'm saying, why aren't you doing what I want you to do, instead of saying, why am I not doing what I should do to make it work for me? Very interesting. That might even go with upgrading a van or something that.
Well, it's so if you step back from the whole thing, it's actually going back to what I said originally. It's intentionality. It's a thought process, and when you're doing things, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And it's okay to do something that's creative because you're intentionally saying, I just need to get my juices flowing and I want to change something up.
Sure.
Okay. But when we just go, oh, I saw a Instagram ad or whatever, that's amazing. You click buy, money is gone. You don't even know what it does.
Right.
You didn't do your homework. You listen to the guy. He's solving a problem you don't have, but it sounds great to solve that problem. This is not being intentional.
Yeah.
Being intentional is going, okay, I need battery powered tools because I don't want to have generators on my job site. So therefore I'm going to invest. And this is the key, Jeff, invest in these tools. What do I mean by invest? When we invest, what do we get on an investment? We get a return.
Yep.
And so if I can't look at something and go, okay, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? Does this tool solve it? How does this impact? Can I support the cost? Sometimes I can't support the cost. Maybe a truck. I'm not ready for a payment. I need to buy something I can pay for cash, right? Can I support the cost? Once I can support the cost, now what is going to be my return? Sometimes, Jeff, the coolest things work great.
Yeah.
But there's no return.
Sure.
There's no return.
And speaking of return, I talk a lot about it on the channel. There was a power drill company. Now, that company doesn't like me very much from something that happened early on. But they were like the first one that had the anti-wrist stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And I told all my guys, and I was going to invest in that tool not because the tool is going to be faster or better, it's going to prevent workers' comp.
Right.
And so that was an intentional, reason. And I knew the ROI I might not even get an ROI.
Well,
but
you will.
Yeah, because I didn't have an injury.
Because you're not going to have an injury, so you're not going to have lost time, right?
It's different. There's higher level thinking.
There's different kinds of ROIs.
Yeah,
Again,
of course.
This is just like, Jeff, you made a decision. You're like, I don't want my guys hurt because I need to have a consistent workforce. I'm willing to, in this case, invest money. It's an insurance policy.
Sure.
We buy insurance. How much insurance do you buy? Well, you have to buy enough to protect yourself based on what your risks are. Well, you were buying some insurance to protect yourself based on your risk. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you got 500 employees, I don't know, maybe the risk is less that you're going to be detrimentally impacted by somebody being out with a wrist injury. If you have 2 and somebody gets a wrist injury, that's 50% of your workforce. So maybe that insurance policy is worth investing in.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that because a lot of what you have done, I pick Brian's brain as much as I can to find out as much as I can about code and what's going on and just what they're doing over at Mike Holt Industries and how you guys invest. And again, spending time with Mike and spending time with you, spending time with Belinda and all of it. You especially have that focus of, intentional moving. So it's funny to see what you guys are investing in. When I came to the studio and we were talking about the studio and the cameras and why it was worth it for them to pay for this camera. The intentionality is something pretty huge. So in the estimating course, you guys have something to do with that intentionality?
Yeah,
or is that just...
we definitely talk about being intentional in how you're estimating. And estimating is a part of being intentional. Mike says something that I think could be used a lot of different ways, but he says, the purpose of a business is to make the most amount of money with the least amount of effort. And that's not saying to be lazy. That's not anything. What that's saying is you should be efficient.
I hear Mike, and I am lazy for sure. I always tell everybody I'm always going to work smarter, not harder.
Smarter. I like smarter and harder.
Absolutely.
I like both.
Absolutely. And my niche is getting in from 1 to maybe 15 to 20 contractors.
But here's where it is, Jeff. This is the contractor that does not have the technical resources. They don't have a team to go, hey, that's a bad idea. We've met over this, and here's the direction the company needs to go. 1 to 15 people,
ad hoc.
You're an army of one. I don't care if you have 15 people.
Right.
You're the one calling all the shots, writing all the checks, solving all the problems. That is when you don't typically stay focused, stay intentional, and stay efficient. You have a tendency to go with your feelings, with your whims, based on whichever way the market's going. And so this is important for a small contractor.
What do you, again, me being done all the books, read all the
Right.
gurus,
Sure.
did all the Franklin Coveys, did all the things. I would assume from what you just said, would you do that, or how have you done it? Would you do it on paper where you would write it out? You would do a pros and cons?
So
how would someone, how would you put that into practice?
I'm going to say I've done it every wrong way.
Okay.
And I've done it a couple of right ways.
All right, share with us the right
so-
ways. Maybe if you share the wrong ways, we don't do them,
Well,
but the right ways are...
So here's what I would say. It doesn't have to be brain surgery.
Okay.
Sometimes, and I'll tell you what just my practice for my business was, and I think this is the one I'm going to share with you just because I think it's the most practical. I sat down at some point in the beginning of the year, usually in January or February, and I picked a theme for each month of the year. Just one thing that I wanted to improve in my business.
Okay.
January, February, whatever it is. And then for the next 12 months, each month, the only thing I worked on for that entire month was that one thing.
Sure.
Could be invoicing. It could be purchasing material for the guys before they go to the jobs. It could be inventorying and improving my tools. It could be improving my truck layouts. It could be improving my paper flow in my office, whatever they happen to be.
Yeah.
But those were 12 things that were a thorn in my side as a business owner.
Sure.
Now, is that real scientific? Not really.
But it's intentional.
But it was very intentional, and I saw so many rewards,
Right.
Jeff,
Yeah.
from going, okay, guys, I know we got all kinds of problems, but what we're doing this month is we're writing good invoices all month.
Right.
And let me tell you, a month of doing something well,
Made a big difference.
well, it changes the course of the business.
Yeah.
And then this habit gets developed.
Now, I would recommend, I want to get your thing, I would probably start with what's going to either save you the most or make you the most money
make you the
first,
most.
right?
Yeah.
Because I always say, without money, there's no gas in the fuel tank.
Yeah.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah,
Is that
so
something you would hit first?
Let me tell you what inspired me.
Or would it be the pain point, the feeling point, or
Let
the
me
cash
let me
point?
tell you what inspired me. No, it was both actually.
Okay.
What inspired me was one day I was driving down the road and I saw a job, and some of you guys may have heard the story before, that I had bid and it was done.
Oh.
And I was like, dang, I wonder who got that job. So I called the office and I was like, hey, girls, could you call up our contractor and ask him who got the job, and ask him how high were we, and just because it started to do, this guy was kind of a friend, and I would have thought he would have called me to tell him, but he didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't offended. I was a little hurt, but I wasn't offended. And they're like, oh no, we did that job. And I was like, oh, we did it. I was like, did we invoice it? Did we collect it? They're like, I don't know, let me check.
Oh my gosh.
So she's, oh yeah, we must have invoiced it because the folder, we had a very methodical folder system, very methodical. So methodical that when a job was done, it got pulled out of one system and put into a different system, kind of like a medical filing system type of a deal. She's like, oh yeah, we must have already invoiced it. Let me check in the invoice jobs. So she goes and she pulls it. She's like, oh no, all the work tickets are here, and the job was finalized and signed off, but we never invoiced it.
Oh my God.
Now, Jeff, it was months old.
Lord.
So I'm kind of sick to my stomach.
Right.
And I'm continuing to drive around, checking on jobs. I had quite a few employees. It wasn't one job, Jeff. It wasn't two jobs, Jeff. It wasn't three jobs, Jeff. It was several jobs. It was a lot of money.
I think it doesn't matter how big you are. I think that you've hit the nail on the head. It doesn't, one man show chases the new job and doesn't have time. Or
all I was doing was bidding the next job.
Right,
I wasn't
right,
following
right.
up. And I thought I had a good system. So then I'm like, well, crap. So I stepped back and I was like, okay, what can I do here?
Right.
Like, what can I do here? And I said, well, I need to fix this. But in the process of fixing that, I was like, oh, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. And I said, well, I can't do it all at once. I
Right,
can't. It was
right.
overwhelming.
Right.
And fortunately, I had a very good business mentor, and he's like, Brian, break it down into steps and do the steps. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put 1 month on each step.
Right.
Is what I'm going to do.
Right.
We're going to do better at estimating. We're going to do better at ordering material and closing jobs out. We're going to do better at invoicing jobs. We're going to do better at collecting money. How is this not on my AR?
Right.
How did I estimate a job and I didn't even know
Right.
that we did the job? Where was the whole, I had all these invoices from the supply
and
house.
you bid on the job. That's the crazy
Well, I'm
part.
like, man, how come I don't have any money in the bank and my supply house bills are high? And, and this was all because I wasn't being intentional about what I was doing. And that's where I kind of came up with this, hey, I'm going to work on one thing a month. Now, it started out paperwork.
Right.
I would say in my case, I was fairly good size at that point, thinking about 20 employees at that time. That was critical.
Right.
But in a smaller company, I could see where you might find something. Another thing that I see a lot lot is inefficiency in material procurement.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's where a contractor the guys don't even know what they're doing until the morning of. They don't have the
Yeah,
materials.
and so they haven't pre-ordered the parts.
So they
haven't
sit
gone
at the supply house for an hour, hour and a half.
Yep.
I'm paying them to sit there.
Yep.
They're not making me money. They're drinking coffee, having a good
Right.
old time eating donuts.
talking about the Super Bowl from the day before.
But there was nothing intentional about
Right,
that.
right.
And so maybe that's the theme.
Yes.
And here's what I did a couple of years, Jeff. I didn't spend a month. I spent a month, 2, 3 months on a couple of things because the problem was that big.
Right.
But here's the thing: you're better, and this is called I think it's the law of iteration. I think the guy that came up with it, his name was Dean or something. The last name was Dean, and that is you want to make incremental improvements. There's a book about this called The Slight Edge. Mike
Yes, I know
recommends
the
people.
Slight Edge.
Okay,
And there's a book called The One Thing.
The One Thing.
Right,
The One
right.
Thing is another great
Right.
book. And so what I would say is this: I would encourage all of you guys, if you're going to do this, come up with your 12 things. Don't spend more than a month. And if you get done in a week, don't start the next thing. You're done. Your month is done.
Right.
The first of next month, start your next thing. Wherever you get at the end of the month, it's better. You've improved. Stop right there. Let that stay in action until the next time, and then you move on to the next thing.
Because you're not killing yourself either.
No,
Yeah.
no. In some years, I could only think of like 6 things. Not that there weren't more, but 6 big things.
Right.
I'm not talking about, hey, make sure you wipe the dash of the
Right.
truck off, guys. Get the coffee stains off. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about big things, okay? Oh, I only had 6 big things. Well, then guess what I did? I did 6 things, and then I started over and did 6 things. And that at some level satisfies that need to chase and conquer something, that new thing, but it's so intentional that it allowed me to really improve my business in a meaningful way, improve bottom line, and it was an ROI on that investment, which is what I really needed.
Yeah, that's some amazing advice. I'm with you 100%. I try to do everything I do, and I teach my courses or coaching. I should use that intentional. I mean, I'm going to steal that from you guys for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I just happen to I put everything in in like a pyramid, and then it's made to be like 1 week. Like I do it for sales. Every day do
there you
this.
go.
Every week do this. Everything.
It's
But
the
again,
same idea.
those are smaller bites. What
Yep.
you're talking about is those bigger bites.
Yep.
I love that because that really should be the 1 month goal alongside of all that. And I think a
how
lot of
you
people
structure
might
it is
know
fine.
and understand. I mean, everybody here is understanding it.
Yeah.
But just like, again, when I saw Mike Holt live out some of the things that I've
Right.
read,
Right.
when I saw you and we were at your desk and you're showing me all these different things that are happening, it's like, oh my gosh, Brian's living out what I already learned, but I never lived it out. So that's the biggest secret is coaching. I had a good friend of mine just the other day say, Jeff, your coaching is only good as if when someone applies it just like that. So
Applies it.
You got to be intentional, but it's the follow through. It's always, I guess, it's this saying we are our own worst enemies, I think.
So I have a saying that I'm sure I stole from somewhere, so I'm not taking credit for this, but I call it perfection paralysis. And what most of us will do is we get so into the minutia of something to get it 100%, we don't get anything done. You're far better to get something done. Matter of fact, I think it's Tony Robbins, probably one of the most used quotes of anybody. I don't use a lot of quotes, but this one I use all the time in my office. He says, an inferior job done by a subordinate today is better than a superior job done by you never.
Right.
And that is, I think, the encapsulation of perfection paralysis. Don't make it a year thing.
Right.
You know what? I like the fact that you have day goals and week goals and month goals in sales, because that is a way to break it down where it's bite size, it's achievable, and you can make some incremental improvements.
That's it. It's the guitar or the piano, right?
Exactly
You're doing
right.
that incremental. Absolutely. That's amazing information. And again, I got to talk to Brian quite a bit about his business before getting into Mike Holt Industries. I'm glad you switched over. I know it was a calling almost.
Me too. Yeah, it really was.
But it's really fun. So Brian, I'm gonna end it here. I know I'm gonna talk to you about a bunch of other things, and who knows, I might get him on camera before he leaves Montana. I'm sure, I always ask like, what are you doing here? But we've already kind of gone through that when I came to Florida. I invited him and he came. Can you believe it? But I asked him, if you watch the little short of the podcast, did you bring your coin?
I do.
He has a coin. All right. Well, tomorrow we're doing a meet and greet, so you guys probably won't see it because this won't be out by then. But Brian, thank you for showing up. Thank you for, taking the invitation.
Absolutely.
I would probably do the same, but I know a lot of people out there wouldn't.
Yeah.
So let's have some fun in Montana. Let's
do it.
And guys, if you appreciate everything you heard from Brian, hey, drop them an email. What's a good email address they can send?
Brian@MikeHolt.com. Of course, you can check us out at MikeHolt.com. Got all kinds of cool stuff over there if you need help with the code.
Absolutely. And listen, Mike answers the phone for
Absolutely.
everything. Do you answer the phone quite a bit?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you got something about anything Brian said, or you don't want to talk about it, look, drop him an email. Don't call him and bother him. Just drop him an email.
Listen, I will say, there's people don't realize this, but if you put a comment on social media, Mike Holt answers it. If you email Mike@MikeHolt.com, Mike Holt answers it.
Yep.
You email Brian answers it.
Yep.
You call Mike's cell phone. Like, we do our own work.
Yeah. And if you accidentally send an email to MikeHolt.com that doesn't belong to the right person, they'll know about it and they'll get to the right place. Brian, thanks again, guys. Appreciate you guys. Stay tuned. We'll do some more clips for you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.